Hinduism versus Shamanism. These traditions are from opposite sides of the world, but have received similar downloads from the cosmos or from the great something. And we're going to dive in and see, do these paths complement each other, or are they in conflict with each other along the spiritual journey? Aloha, my friends. My name is Garth Wolfs. And so the first main point here that we're going to talk about is that in Hinduism, they believe in a thing called Dharma. Now, Dharma is there's not really a good translation from Sanskrit into English for that word, but like the best way to explain it might be, proper behavior. It is one of the central concepts of Hinduism, and refers to like duty and morality and living in harmony with the cosmic order. And each individual has a unique dharma based on their role in society and stage of life. So as a concept, like even animals, like a bison, its dharma is to eat grass, protect its herd, mate, race, play, have fun, eat, sleep, repeat, you know, and that's its dharma essentially, in its proper behavior way. And so sometimes dharma can apply to like a role that we hold, like a king or a firefighter, or a coach, or, even something we might be doing in the moment. Like we might be a student for a moment, or we might be a creator for a moment, or, we go to a job and we put that role on for a while. So it's showing up in that proper behavior for that. So those are some of the examples there. Like the firefighter, their dharma is to put out fires. Someone that's a spiritual seeker or on the personal development path, their dharma is to continue to learn, continue to grow, to continue to heal and transform themselves to be the best version of themselves. The dharma of a viewer on YouTube could be to hit the like button and subscribe and comment down below if they're getting value out of this video. Just saying. But then a similarity here in shamanism, shamans often believe that we have a similar sense of duty or calling, and we call this more of like the impeccability of a warrior or the warrior's way. So when you're walking in life and you're aiming to be a better self and applying the principles of shamanism, your duties have callings. And so shamans, they serve their communities by being healers, guides, intermediates between the physical and spiritual world, and helping maintain balance. And to do all of those is actually without judgment of the other person, without their beliefs. So, in their community, like if there's somebody that, maybe as a child, they didn't get along with this other person, or even as an adulthood, they've had a conflict with somebody, or this person just rubs them the wrong way and they don't like each other. If that person comes to the shaman would still give them healing, would still give them guidance, would still do a journey on their behalf. And so this is similar to like maybe sometimes in like families, you may not like your siblings, but you might have a sense of duty to be nice to them at, family gatherings, or to care about how they're doing. Sometimes even in like the shamanic ways or the warrior's way, this is something we see in Hinduism and Buddhism, but like, people walking a spiritual path together, they may not actually be friends. Like they may not be someone you're going to invite to Thanksgiving dinner. They may not be somebody that you actually even like want to hang out with, but when you both have a sense of duty, you're going to show up together. And so this is something I even see when I go down and do ceremonies in Peru, or when I do sweat lodges here. There are certain people that like when we're in ceremony together, like when we're in sacred space and we're assisting others, we're both acting as our best version selves. And so by acting as our best version selves in that proper role, we get along great and we work really well in a sweat lodge together, or in, an ayahuasca ceremony down in Peru, or a Wachuma ceremony, off in Machu Picchu area. Like we work really well together. But outside of that, I'm not really going to hang out with that person. Actually, there's certain things about their character and behavior I don't appreciate and don't like. Doesn't mean that they're lower than me. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. We just don't really vibe at the same vibration. But when we step into Dharma, when we step into role, placing the persona on of a space holder or someone assisting others, when we're walking the shamanic path, then in impeccability, we'll hold hands and we'll walk side by side and accomplish great things together and allow our energies to complement to create a beautiful world. And so that's a similarity between these key overlapping, traditions here a little bit, from opposite ends of the world. One's in South America, shamanism, and shamanism does apply to multiple realms of the world. I guess when I talk about shamanism, I talk more about core shamanism, which is focused more in South America traditions, indigenous cultures, and North America, Native American traditions is how I'm focusing on that. So from that side of the world versus India, the other side of the world where Hinduism is greatly at. So that's the first principle. So the second core belief, the cycle of life and death and rebirth. So they believe in Hinduism that the goal is to achieve moksha, which is the separation out of the reincarnation cycle, out of the cycle of life and birth, to then be on the other side of like receiving knowledge and devotion and righteous living. And that's how you achieve stepping out is by righteous living. And then there's some four core concepts within Hinduism that by applying those, you have that. And so they have this belief that your body is is a vessel for your soul. Your body is inside your soul, and your soul is Atma. But Atma's goal is to return to Brahma. And so by living Dharma appropriately and applying other principles of Hinduism beliefs, then you essentially have moksha, which is then you separate from the cycle of samsara and you enter into Brahma, and then you are part of the all. Similarly to this, shamanism believes that there are, cycles of death and birth, and that death and birth is both your emotional body is dying and being reborn consistently throughout life, your mental body is dying and being reborn, your physical body is too. Like we know every 7 years your cells are new, but also like as you eat food, your body changes. As you exercise, your body changes. The way you show up in day-to-day life, the way your general geometry or the mudras of your body, the way you move your body and the way your geometry of your body shows up tells the world how you want to experience it, and that ripples back and your physical body changes. So there's always a death and a birth. You're a new you now, and you're a new you now, and you're a new you that you were 5 minutes ago when you started watching this video. So those are the cycle of life and death, but also that when you die from this earth, you come back again to be reincarnated or to continue the cycle. That there's a natural cycle of life and death, and that your energy comes back in some way. So when you die, your body returns to the earth, and the animals and the insects and the grass absorb all that energy, and then your emotional body and your mental body, they float off into their respected geometry and vibrations that they match, and then your soul goes on to the next thing, which could either be you're now a guide and an ancestor for the next generation, or you come back and you are that manifestation of your ancestors. Just as you are the manifestation of your ancestors, you could come back as the next you, manifesting to assist the next version of you, and continuing on in the primordial soup of life. And so there's always a cycle. Nothing is ever staying the same. And so the overlap is this, that there is a cynical nature, or cyclical nature of existence, and offers spiritual paths to transcendence to transform the cycle of rebirth. And so like within shamanism, like it's not necessarily to escape the cycle, but being aware of the cycle and choosing how you want to show up in it. And so being aware of how you set up the next 7 generations is being aware of how you want to experience it. And you may not be on this earth. You may go be an ancestor, or a spirit guide, or you may go to a different existence somewhere else. You might go to one of the star tribes, as they talked about, or one of the sky tribes, and go be with them for a while, and then you might come back here. But it's always these energies to play into, not just Earth, not just Pachamama shifting and becoming better as she goes through her cycles, but the whole cosmos. That's part of the entire game of the cosmos, is there's a cycle going on. And then when you step out of that cycle, you observe the cycle, assist the cycle, and usually join the cycle again. And even when you're stepped out of it observing, you're in a different cycle. So that's kind of a core concept there. So moving on to point 3 here is that, touching back a little bit of what we were talking about, is that the nature of who you are, the self, is a divine being. And that in Hinduism, it is a belief that your body is a vessel for your spirit, but is actually inside your spirit. So your energetic field that is around you is your soul, is your spirit. And your body is a layer within that can be perceived by the physical realm. But your emotional body is actually outside of you a little bit, outside of the physical body. Your mental realm is outside of that. your astral body is outside of that, and your celestial body, and then even within that, that is your soul, that is who you are. So it extends out quite a way, and when you're around other people, your energies begin to mix. And so there's Brahman, which is the universal divine reality. And then there's Atman, or the internal soul. So that is the soul which is connected to Brahm and that universal divine reality. The goal is to realize that Atma and Brahm are one, and that they are leading to liberation, and that they are connected. And that so there is a oneness to all things. There is only one divine soul, but then there is also the repeating individual divine soul. So you would have, source, and then you have the oversouls, and then of the oversouls, each oversoul has so many higher selves, and those higher selves are, oversoul, higher selves, and then higher selves break down into multiple different souls that incarnate at different vibrations of, the fifth dimension or the fourth dimension or the third dimension, like ourselves, and so you can work with other beings in your life and you're a reflection of them. You're on the same line, and you're crossing over that line with someone when you interact with them, and that creates a vibration, and that same line can go back to the same higher self. And you could have a group of 20 people or hundreds of people that are over one higher self, and they work with another group of hundreds of people of a different higher self, but they're part of the same oversoul, and there's a rippling effect going on here. And all of this, the reason I'm breaking it down in such literal details like that is because how it ties into shamanism too, where they do believe there's a universal self, but that it is more totemed. So Hinduism doesn't quite lead into all of the totem, but they do believe that Atma leads back to Brahma, and that after this life, you are either returning to Brahman or you're returning to another version that is closer to Brahman, and then there will be goals and lives there for you and things to achieve there, just as there were teachings here to achieve in this reality, in this life form. So you go to a next higher one, and eventually the goal is to hit full liberation, full unity, merging back with Source or Brahman, and so forth. And so shamanism believes it more of like a totem concept of they don't quite talk about the energetic bodies going out, but they do talk about your physical body is the part of you that is interacting with your spirit, and your spirit is an extension of Great Spirit. And so in the Lakota tradition, there's totems essentially, and actually the mental realm is the bottom totem. And so the full mastery of the human self, the mastery of the human body, the physical self, allows the mental realm to work. So your thoughts create a ripple that creates what emotions that you feel, and then those emotions create how you act. And so your emotions and thoughts create these ripple effects that then are how your actions are, and then how your actions are create a result, and then that result ripples back into your belief system. And so, and when you recognize that, you can shift your thoughts, you can shift your beliefs. When you shift your beliefs, you enter into that totem of which is the mental realm. You've mastered the mental realm, and that's the lowest totem. And the totem above that would be mastery of the four elemental self, and so you're into the ether, and that's the next totem. And so it actually totems all the way up until eventually you get back to Great Spirit, which is the highest part of the totem, which is actually not the highest point on the totem, but is actually what the totem is on. So the entire totem pole exists, and the highest totem is the highest version of the self, the eagle, the condor, the stars, the sun, all these very heightened things as a physical representation of what we can perceive of. Even rainbow spirit would be the top of the totem, but then where the totem pole actually sits, where the totem pole actually exists, is Great Spirit, just as is Brahman, is everything. And so that's where it sits inside of it. And if you'd like to learn more about Hinduism and how it connects with Buddhism, you can watch this video here, and we dive into that there. And keep watching for more videos where we dive deeper into Hinduism and Shamanism and other religious beliefs. Drink more water, get more sunlight. Have a blessed day.